That's Quentin Somerville. Let's go live now to Dr. Tao Wang, who's a research fellow from the Tyndall Centre for Climate Change Research. Dr. Wang, thanks for being with us. Are there more instances of things like lead poisoning happening in China today, or is it just that we're hearing more about them?
I think this is not just isolated cases. I think during the huge expansion of the heavy industries in the last few years in China, in many cases, the environmental standards sometimes would be sacrificed for the desire of having economic growth in the local government. And in many cases, the local government are responsible for ignoring or sometimes not really pay enough attention to the environmental standards.
So it's not that the environmental standards don't exist, they are there. It's a question of their enforcement.
Yes, sure. The environmental standards are actually quite high in China, and because of the previous experience learned from the developed countries, China actually has quite comprehensive environmental laws in place already. But the execution of these laws or policies are always a problem. Very poor in the local areas. Sometimes it's because of the undersourced staff. They don't really have the resources to do the expensive experiment to test and to monitoring, and sometimes it's just sacrificed because the local government wants more from the economic environment, economic growth.
And do you think things are changing at all? Are the authorities now putting more emphasis on this? If you look at these particular instances, it seems that the emphasis has been on trying to prevent
more and more of those heavy industries and pollution-intensive industries moving from the east of China, where the environmental awareness is already increasing and people get more rich and care more about the environment and their own health, to the west part of China, where the people are still very poor and the local government is desperate for looking for the opportunity for economic growth. So that is something that has to be tightened up.
Would there also be concern about how all of this plays in terms of China's international image? Because, of course, last year we learnt a great deal about the contaminated milk scandal. So all of this doesn't do China's reputation any good abroad.
For sure, that is something really be ashamed by Chinese government. I think that is a scandal, but I think they have already learned from the experience to handle them positively instead of just covering up. And also, possibly you will see that it's almost impossible now for the Chinese government to cover this up, not just for the central government, but also for the local government. So because of the much wider access to the internet and other means of communications. And also you will see a lot more NGOs working in China, which I have to point out the environmental NGOs are actually enjoying quite freedom compared with other NGOs in China. So basically those things are very difficult to be hide up as what they did before. So you probably will see more of those being exposed in the future, but that doesn't really necessarily mean there are more of those pollutions in China. It just means more open attitude towards it.
Dr. Wang, thanks very much for your time, for joining us live from Brighton. You're with